Congress recognizes no limits on its power. It doesn't care about the Constitution. It doesn't care about your inalienable rights. It doesn't care about the laws that it writes. The health care law is the law of the land. And as a result, life as you have known it, freedom as you have exercised it, and privacy as you have enjoyed it will cease to be. We don't have two political parties in this country. We have one party called the big government party. The Republican wing likes deficits and war and assaults on civil liberties. The Democratic wing likes wealth transfer and taxes and assaults on commercial liberties. Both parties like power, and neither is interested in your freedoms. Think about it. Government is the negation of freedom. Freedom is your power and ability to follow your own free will and conscience. The government wants you to follow the will of some faceless bureaucrat. The federal government can no more force you to buy health insurance than it can force you to wear shoes or buy a gun. And Congress cannot tell the state legislatures how much money to spend for health care or how to regulate physicians. And the courts have consistently held that the government cannot interfere with or intrude upon the patient-physician relationship. I predict much of this will be invalidated by the federal courts. Joining me now is Robert Higgs, Senior Fellow in Political Economy at the Independent Institute, editor of the Independent Review, and author of the seminal work, Crisis and Leviathan, the best study there has ever been on the modern growth of big government in America. Robert, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.
Is there any area of human behavior today not regulated by the federal government?
I don't know that there's any area of any consequence, Judge. Obviously, there are little details that people are still free to decide for themselves in their day-to-day life, but they have to make those decisions within the limits established by law and regulation. And so even though they may feel free, they may say, I've decided whether to go to the mall and buy one brand of toothpaste or another, they're not free in any broader sense to make their own decisions.
Has health care legislation, Bob, been the last straw? I mean, you and I railed against the Patriot Act. We railed against torture. We railed against NSA spying without warrants in the Bush administration, and a lot of our railing fell on deaf ears. Now the government has decided to tell us that we have to buy a certain product, that we don't have privacy with our physician, that our state legislatures have to raise state taxes and spend that money as the feds want. Is this the last straw? Might this be some turning point in the march towards the centralization of all life in Washington, D.C.?
Well, we always hope we've encountered the last straw, Judge, but I'm not ready to conclude that we have. Unfortunately, a great many Americans have been brought up to simply do what they're told and to make the best of a bad situation. It doesn't occur to very many Americans, if you think of them in terms of their proportion in the population, to worry that much about governments trenching on their liberties. They simply go along, they get along, they live their daily lives, they try to stay out of harm's way, cheat on their taxes when they can, and so forth. But unfortunately, we still haven't, in my judgment, come to the point at which a critical mass of Americans will interpret what's going on now in terms of their march toward totalitarianism. And until they begin to have that understanding of where we've come and where we're going, I think they'll continue to be sucked into greater and greater government control. Rasmussen
produced a poll this morning, which has startled a lot of us in the Liberty Movement, showing President Obama 42%, Congressman Ron Paul 41%. Is this the result not only of Congressman Paul's dogged determination to spread the message of liberty, not only the president's dogged determination to micromanage all human activity from Washington, but a realization on the part of average folks that there are areas of human behavior that the Constitution does not repose into the hands of the federal government?
I hope it is that, Judge. Again, it's very difficult to know what to make of poll results. There is no question, however, that Dr. Paul has had astonishing success in awakening people to their situation and in alerting them to the necessity of reversing the course of events. This is not a recent course of events, of course. It's been building in spurts, and then between the spurts, gradually for about a century now. So everybody alive now in this country has been conditioned to some extent by greater and greater government control, and it alters the culture, it alters people's sensibilities, their ways of understanding what's going on, and they really have to develop a new understanding, a new ideological compass for guiding them.
Is this reversible? I mean, you've chronicled it like no one else has in Crisis and Leviathan, starting with the Progressive era and going up to LBJ. This is a steady, inexorable, continually accelerating march toward the government accumulation of power, towards the loss of sovereignty by the states, and towards the loss of choices by individuals. I think you'd probably agree with that summary. Is this reversible in our lifetimes? Do we need 400 Ron Pauls in the House of Representatives in order to get our freedoms back?
I really don't think that when it is reversed, Judge, it will come because we've got an abundance of Ron Pauls in the Congress. I think it will come when the system breaks down. That's the way the turning point came in the totalitarian countries under communism. And unfortunately, I suspect that will have to be the way in which our own system of massive government control breaks down also. We know that the government has put itself in a position already where it cannot even approximate carrying out the promises it's made to give benefits to people. And its finances are increasingly in question, even by the people who have lent massive amounts of money to the U.S. Treasury. So if the time comes, and I think it may come, when the U.S. government is no longer viable in terms of even being able to carry out enough of its promises to fool a lot of people and drag them along with its program, what will happen, I think, will never be that we have a lot of congressional reversal. I think it'll simply be that people opt out. They simply stop obeying. They stop paying taxes. They stop being sheep. And when that day comes, the whole system will crumble very quickly.
From the Independent Institute in Oakland, California, Professor Bob Higgs. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.